Welcome to the Executive Coach for Moms podcast, where we support women who are attempting to find balance and joy while simultaneously leading people at work and at home. I'm your host, Leanna McGrath, former tech exec turned full-time mom, recovering perfectionist and workaholic, and certified executive coach. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to share with you today's guest and introduce you to her. Her name is Klara Ganter, and she is a mom of 3 and a career strategist who's transitioned between corporate leadership and entrepreneurship more than once. After building teams, running her own pastry shop, and navigating the chaos of working motherhood, she realized that moms don't need to choose between purpose and family. They just need a better plan. Today, through her platform Mompire, Klara helps mothers design careers and businesses that work with motherhood, not against it. Welcome, Klara.
Thanks so much for having me here. And thanks for the introduction. Yeah, as you said, I changed careers from corporate to entrepreneurship not only once. Yeah, that even was strange to hear for me, but that's true. So I started my career at a multinational company when I was like 22 or something, more than 20 years ago. And I worked at HR, like in learning and development department. And I worked my way through to, regional management or something. But I felt that this is not the right platform for me or not the right angle for me. I felt like I cannot use my skills. There are too many rules. I aimed for more freedom. And then I have my first child, my first daughter. And I absolutely felt that this is not possible to do this 10-hour per day job with a small baby. So that was absolutely not an option for me. So I tried to pivot to something else. And I wanted to be at home with my daughter, like as many hours as I can. That was very important for me. We waited a really long time, like years, to have our daughter. And probably because of that, it was really important for me to be at home with her. And in my country, we can be a little bit longer at home with our babies. So that was great. But I had long-term passion for food, basically, reading recipes and things like that. So eventually I turned to this and created my first business. I became a food blogger. That was really huge back then. And I used my own cookbook. I had workshops and things like that. And then I finally had the chance to open my own pastry shop, like a brick and mortar shop, which is, you cannot do it online, right? So, but at that time, I already had 3 daughters. So that was not easy to build up a business like that. But I loved it, and it was my long-term dream. And I thought to myself, with 30, I was 37 at that time, I reached my career goals. Opening this shop is huge, and it went well. But then I realized after 3 years that it was just too much. So the shop went really well, but I worked like 7 days a week, and it was just not sustainable with the kids and everything. And even though this was my dream to do it, and it went well, and I really loved it, and we were successful and everything, it was a small family business still. So I eventually chose to close it. And, many people said that this was your dream. Why didn't you close it? And, what will you do? And you are crazy and everything. And I felt that this is the right decision, again, to choose my family and to choose my kids against my career, or it seemed that it's against my career, but it was basically based on my values, what I wanted. And even though it was professionally my dream, it was still not what I wanted in my life, so to say. So I realized that. And it's a funny thing because I closed it, and the last day we were open was January the 18th, 2020. So basically in 6 weeks, COVID came. I probably had to close it anyway, because it was, a brick and mortar shop. We had lots of weddings. All weddings were canceled in this year. And, it's just not possible to homeschool 3 kids and bake cakes at the same time and deliver it to homes. And it was not the case. And this was kind of the lottery win in my life. And then I realized that I choose my family, and life kind of rewarded me for that still. I could make the decision to close my shop on my own and not because of any outside things. And it was great. And by that time, I again worked in the corporate world. So I decided, okay, let's close this chapter. My passion was food and baking and cooking, but I just closed this chapter and went back to HR in the corporate, this time in a smaller company. It was still an international company, a German company, but I became then a people operation manager. And I was responsible to make the whole organization working smooth and processes. It was a complete chaos, and I loved this, to make something from the chaos. And after a few years, I realized that it's great. I loved it. I climbed the ladder again, and I gained again a lot of experience. I could use my skills, my language skills. I speak also German, and it was great, but somehow it was meaningless, so to say. So, when you reach the age of over 40, then you kind of start to think about, let's do something meaningful, right? And I'm rather the entrepreneur type and not the employee type, so to say, because I think there is a difference in that. It's not a sharp line between it, but I feel better if I can make my own decisions, if I can chase my own goals. And then I thought that, okay, what's next? And I thought about, okay, let's do with me the same what I do now with moms. Let's do a clarity check, right? And let's make a strategy and let's have a vision. And then I realized after making all this on myself that what am I good at and what is my experience? And I realized that what I'm good at is basically balancing this motherhood thing, because I always choose my career based on my values. So somehow it was natural to me, but I know that for many moms, it's not a natural thing to balance everything. And maybe they don't have the opportunity or the knowledge to choose the right career for them. So I eventually, with my HR background and recruitment background and working with people and building businesses and having all these skills, I thought that, okay, let's make a business. Let's help moms to finally understood what they are for, what are their purpose, because after motherhood, everything changes, right? Our values, the corporate world might not seem that shiny anymore. There are lots of compromises we have to make. So I turned eventually into that, and now I'm super happy with that, and I'm doing that.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's always so interesting and helpful to hear people's career paths, especially when they have these like pivots and changes and unexpected kind of twists and turns where you're like, wow, looking back and kind of mapping it. It's so interesting. And I have a million questions. I think that often people feel like they're in a career and they have invested so much time and maybe education and blood, sweat, and tears. And then they're like, I can't throw that all away, right? Like I can't just up and leave. And you have made these pivots multiple times. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, how do you think about it whenever you think about making a change? Is there any of that kind of, I've invested time and that would be throwing it away thoughts? Or is it scary when you make these changes? Or is it just like, I know this is what I need to do and it's an easy choice?
I think somewhere in between is the right. Yes, it's scary to build something again from scratch, but then you realize you are not building something from scratch. And I don't think that you throw anything away. It's more like when you move houses, for example, you don't throw everything away. You sort it out, right? You maybe leave things, or you think through, okay, this I haven't touched for years. Maybe I shouldn't bring it with myself. And also there are things that you don't like and you just leave it for the next owner or just throw it away. And there are a lot of things that you take with you, and it just continues to live in a new environment. And I think that our skills and experience is just the same. So even though you maybe work in the corporate world, you can be a business owner and take those skills, maybe not all of them, but maybe you don't even like all of them. And you can repack it, so to say, and bring it to your next chapter, because there is nothing that you have to throw away. So not even education, not even your corporate or any kind of experience. So in my case, yes, I cannot bake cakes in a corporate job, obviously. So this kind of knowledge, I couldn't take it with me, but because it was not necessary, this remained a hobby, and my family is super happy about it. But also, I had lots of experience building up a business, recruiting people, having performance evaluations, with creating my own workflows and processes, basically in a small business. And for example, these I completely could use when I became a people operation manager and had to build processes from scratch. This was a great experience. And if you see those two workplaces, you might see nothing common in them, but that's not true, because I'm the common in them, right? Where I can take my skills. And yes, sometimes it's scary, but for me, and I try to explain that for my clients as well, what is more scary, to stay in a workplace that you don't like and where you cannot have the fulfillment and the purpose that you are here in this world for, or start something new? And if you break it down, it's not even that scary, because as I said, we take a lot of things with us to the next chapter, whether it's another corporate job, but even if you have the same position in another corporate job, you still change a lot, because maybe it's in another part of the city, or new people, or new rules, new processes. So a lot of things change, even if you see that your work is kind of the same. But if you pivot from a corporate job to a very different area, then it's the same. You take a lot of things with you, but also if you a business and leave the corporate world, you can take a lot of experience with you. So there is no wasted education and experience in my eyes.
Yeah, I love that perspective. And I think when you were talking about like the house, that makes total sense to me. I love that metaphor, because every time I move houses, please let the windows be the same size so I can take my curtains with me. Or these curtains that I don't really like anymore, like please make it so that I don't have a window that fits these, so that I have a reason to get rid of.
Yeah, you can buy new ones. Yeah.
Yeah, you like pick and choose. Like, am I going to take with me to the next place, and what am I going to leave behind? And I love that perspective. I'm curious about when you said, everyone was saying to you. By the way, it was so interesting to hear you talk about, when you're making changes and people are saying like, you're crazy, what are you doing? And I think that is something that so many of us have to be prepared for, because not everybody makes the same kind of decisions, right? Not everybody understands like the full spectrum of what's happening within us and our values and how we're feeling about things. And so, of course, not everyone's going to understand our decisions. But I'm curious for you, this concept of like, this was your dream. Why did you close it? I would just love to hear more about that for you, of like, how did you do that? You like achieved your dream at 37 and now you have to close it. Was that a really difficult decision for you? Was it just like crystal clear? What was that like for you?
I mean, that was obviously not, waking up on a Monday and saying, "Oh, I close."
Sure.
It was not that easy. But it was a process, because we were in this flow to have a lot of weddings and baking cakes and events and things like that. And that was this dual thing in me, that although I love to do it and I love my customers' reactions and, they're calling me, it was great and they never had such a great experience and all these positive things. But on the other hand, I was feeling that I don't see my kids. And it was really hard. It was a battle in me, basically, in my head constantly. And my husband was super supportive. So it was not that I was on a leash or something, that I was I had to go back or something like that and leave my workplace early. It was all great. But it was really a battle in me. And I wanted to be a mom. I love my kids. I like motherhood. I like to spend time with them. I like to see them grow up. As I said, it was constantly, something felt wrong, basically, even though I had success and I loved what I did. And then I eventually started to think about what is my problem, right? Why I'm not happy, basically, why I'm only happy when customers have positive reviews, and then I go home and I'm not really fulfilled with my success. And then I started to think about, okay, what is wrong with me? And then I came to this that, yeah, probably my mother's side was not fulfilled completely, and I felt really that I don't spend enough time with my kids. So when we, when sometimes when working mothers, we talk about working mothers, and we mention that, oh, kids need you, but we need our kids as well, right? And we sometimes forget this part, that it's not only the kid who needs the mom needs the kid as well, emotionally and in many ways. So I started to explore my options. Okay, if I close this, because we put money in that, and it we bought the place. I mean, it was also a kind of a real estate investment, so that was turning out well because we saw it. But still, there were many things involved. And I thought about what could be my next step. I explored my option. I went to a coach as well while I still was working in a pastry shop, and I explored. Okay, because I was not in the corporate world for more than 10 years. So I thought that, okay, I don't even know how to write a CV, right? What is the new trend? How would you do that? And what am I good at? So I basically did the same kind of clarity thing with the help of a coach, and whether is it possible for me to go back with 40 years? I was 40 at the time, to go back to the corporate world. So it was, from the outside, it might seem that it was a decision out of nowhere, but it was a really strategic decision. And as I said, when I closed the shop, I already had my almost signed contract for my next workplace. So transition was basically pretty smooth. From the outside, it seemed that I just went and closed it, But once I made the decision that okay, this cannot go on like this, because even though we have dreams, we sometimes don't know how these dreams work
in real life.
In real life, yeah. And sometimes we just, oh, I want to have a pastry shop. Yeah, but what comes with it, it's sometimes not, realistic. And so when I made the decision and I thought, okay, this has to end, and I already saw my next step, kind of, it was easy. I really needed the strategic path to go and to see, okay, what could be my next step, even though when I decided to close it, I haven't had my next job, but I knew what was my angle. So that is also what I kind of teach to my clients, that you don't have to quit immediately. That's a process that can be 1 year or a few months. But once you see your next step or see the light in the end of the tunnel, it's so much easier. And when you see the steps, what steps you have to make to quit, or to reach the point to finally kind of really close the door, then it's an easy thing to do.
Yeah. I think it's so cool how like the universe always has our back, and obviously the universe was like, perfect timing.
Probably I was the only person in the world who was happy about this whole thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it would have been a very different situation if you had been forced to close it. And I'm sure it would have felt a whole lot worse to be forced to close it.
At time, it would be probably impossible to gather myself mentally and with my confidence and everything. So I really support those decisions. You have to be brave at some point, because it sounds crazy, but it's a brave thing. But as I say, it was a really realistic decision. So it was, but not like jumping off the cliff. I was really supported with a lot of things. I had ropes and everything, and the trampoline waiting for me. So it was not like jumping off the cliff. It was a strategic path that I went through, and with that, it felt more easy. People say, yeah, you are brave. No, I think things through. It's not fun. It's exploring your option and find a way that finally fits you. And this is, maybe it's brave, I don't know, but it's more like the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or maybe it's a little bit of both, or maybe it doesn't feel brave when it doesn't feel hard, like when it's so clear.
Yeah.
I remember, when I left corporate, I took a 2-year career pause, and it was the same thing. It was just so clear to me. And, Some people around me were very supportive, and some people around me were like, what? Because
Yeah.
having been like a very successful career woman, and then suddenly they're like, but you're going to do what next? Like, where are you going next? What are you going to do? And the thing you said about that, yes, our children need us, but we also need them. And some people said, wow, it's so selfless of you to give up your career for your daughter. And I was like, that's not what I'm doing. I am taking a pause. Like, it's way more selfish. Like, I don't want to miss her childhood. I don't want to miss the experience of motherhood. This is like a life experience that I don't want to miss. Yes, of course, for her too. I know it's good for her too and that kind of thing, but I also don't think it would be bad for her to be cared for by somebody else, or, like, I don't think what we were doing before was bad. I just think it's like, I want to have this experience. I need to enjoy motherhood more than I'm enjoying it now, trying to work 60 to 80 hours a week and balance everything. And so that was what I felt was right for me at that time. So I love that you said that, because I think a lot of times we overlook that.
Yeah, absolutely. People try to judge us from the outside, judge why are you crazy, or what will be your next step. They want answers immediately because they are
Yeah.
confident in themselves, and they kind of have this filter what they see their lives through, or see you. And if they are scared, they think you are scared as well, and you don't have the answers because they don't have the answers for themselves.
Yeah, and I think the reality is like, people are going to judge us if we work, because they're going to say, well, if you can be a full-time mom, stay at home, why wouldn't you do that? That should be what you want. And then if we don't work for a while, then we're going to be judged for that, for not working. And if we decide to open a pastry shop when we have kids, we're going to be judged for that, because how could you
Yeah.
possibly leave your kids 7 days a week? And if we decide to close it, we're going to be judged for that, because how could you give up your dream? There's no decision we can make where we escape the judgment of other people. It's just like, whose judgment do I care about?
Yeah, but you have to get at this point in your life when you say that I don't give a shit anymore what people tell me, and try to judge me for how I live my life and how I live my motherhood, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, I wish I could say I don't give a shit at all. I do give a shit a little bit, but I think it's just like, I don't prioritize it. It's way lower on my radar and in my list of cares, right? Than like how I look at myself and how I live my own life. But
Yeah.
maybe someday I'll get to the point where I don't give a shit. I know I remember my grandma at 80 would just say whatever she wanted to. And she said, I can say whatever I want. I'm 80. So maybe I've got a few more years to go before that. But thinking about that time that we have with our little ones, you mentioned that in your country, you're in Hungary, that you have a longer time with your babies. And I would love to hear more about this, because myself and all of my guests are from the United States. And I think we just assume that it's better everywhere else because we don't have paid parental leave here. It's not a federal thing. And so I'd love to hear about what it is in your country, and then what your experience was like with it.
It's funny that you asked that, because back to the judgment here, basically you can stay at home maybe for 3 years as well. So you can stretch 3 years, which does not mean that you get your, salary. It's not, you get some kind of money in the third year, but it's really just for nothing. So it's very, very, I don't know how much is in dollars, but maybe $50 a month or something, which
Okay.
is not even a lot here. So you can buy anything for that. For 2 years, you can stay at home with your kind of salary. Maybe it's 70% of your salary, but there is a maximum. So if you earn a lot, you still don't get that money. So usually in Hungary, people go back, or moms go back to work after these 2 years, because these 2 years they somehow can manage with with the husband's salary, or somehow they can. I mean, some go back earlier. You can go back whenever you want. You will be charged more than, because here as well, it's the funny thing that if you go back when your child is 2, then you will be judged that why don't you stay at home for this last third year. If if you stay at home for 3 years, then you are not ambitious enough. And, they say that your children need socializing and things like that. It's the same everywhere, basically. I mean, I work with moms from many places, and it's really different. I mean, the US system, I think, and I agree with you on that it's not the best. It's one of the worst. So it's just crazy. I once wrote a LinkedIn post about that. Even dog puppies can stay for more weeks with their moms, as sometimes babies with their human babies. Yes, but we have a different system, but it's still not optimal because we have, I don't know how it in the US, but in my experience, when I talk to moms, there is a better chance to have part-time jobs sometimes, or it's a bit more flexible, not always, but it's a bit more flexible. We don't really have part-time jobs. It's really difficult to have, and especially in leadership positions. So for example, for me, it was not an option to work like 4 or 6 hours per day in a leadership position. It's just not possible. There's nothing like that. If you are a very kind of low level employee, so to say, then you maybe can have some part-time position and be an administrator somewhere, and pushing papers from here to there. But that's, again, for some people it's not fulfilling enough, or their ambition is a bit more, which is okay as a mom, because sometimes you have to step back a little bit for a few years, and that's okay. As you said, you were at home for 2 years, or you made a career poll, think about what's your next step, and to be with your child, which is completely, I think, okay. And we have so much time to work, right, in our lives. And those few years really doesn't matter whether we are at home or with our kids, or, making a pause or do whatever we want. I think it's really personalized how we have to live our lives, and basically that. But yeah, the system is different, but the emotional parts of motherhood is the same in the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just, looking at different systems and how, different places have chosen to structure it is really interesting to me. And yeah, I mean, here in the US, some women go back after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a few days later, even, which I think is so sad. It's such a disservice to society, right? Because like that bonding time is so crucial in terms of a baby's development.
Is not ready for that. Seeing just really selfish points, I couldn't even, walk after 3 weeks giving birth sometimes, and I didn't have a cesarean, so it was a natural birth. But still, a lot of things are going on here and there, and you don't get up with a flu after 3 days because you still have fever. You don't go back to work. And giving birth is a bit more difficult for your body than just having a flu, right? So it's not human enough.
I agree. Well, I have loved hearing about your story and kind of how you are thinking about things and approaching things. And I'm curious, is there anything else that you would want to share or tell us about, or impart your wisdom, things you've learned along the way, or anything like that?
Basically just summarizing what we talked about, that there are a lot of options. Sometimes we don't see the options because our brain is just a bit limited in this. But whenever, if someone listens to this and feels inspired and feels that, oh, I can somehow relate to that. And if she could do it, I can do it as well. I just really encourage moms to turn to someone who can help them, and to explore more options. That doesn't mean you have to quit tomorrow or today, but exploring options and have your clarity and your vision, I think at one point is necessary, because what you said, that they go back to work and do the hustle and everything, and then eventually they burn out. I saw a lot of these things. I went through this as well myself. And when you have to gather yourself after burnout, it's so much harder than plan strategically and explore your options, and have different escape paths, so to say. Career, because a career doesn't have to be linear. In the corporate world, it's really like they teach us that you have to climb the ladder, and the ladder visually is, it's a linear thing. It's not
Yeah.
like that.
Straight up and down.
Immediately are conditioned to there is only one line that we can walk and that's it. And it's not like that. Life is not black or white. It's really colorful if you finally can see those colors, or have someone who can show you your colors, what kind of colors you can pick up on your way.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely. And I think that is so much about how we are conditioned to believe that, this is the way that we should approach things. And that when we get to this point, we climb this ladder, we get here, and then life will be amazing. And then I think, as many of us have learned, like, we get there and we're like, okay, I have the pastry shop now, I have the family, and I'm looking around and like, this isn't how they told me it was going to be, or I have everything on paper, but it's not feeling good. And then it's like, well, then what? In our minds, it's like, well, I can go back down the ladder, or I can keep climbing it, or I can stay right here, but like, that's it. And I love what you're saying. There's lots of other options besides this.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you, and what would they come to you for? How would they get started working with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm now redesigning my website, but usually they can find me as there, mompire.eu. And also I have a podcast as well, The Working Mom Show. So they can find me through that as well. We are talking about all things working moms, and lots of inspiring stories from moms who either pivoted or still in the corporate, but figuring out their next steps. And a lot of crazy stuff is happening there. I mean, I'm so inspired by them. It's really, really a great thing to do. And what people come to me for is basically what we were talking about, to have the clarity. I'm just redesigning. I have a modular training program, and it starts with the clarity, and it's called Crossroads, because sometimes we get to crossroads. We have to see how many paths we have, and what is the best option for our next chapter. And I have this module, career restart, and also from corporate to mompreneurship. So I can help with these steps. So those who want to have a strategic plan in their hands, starting from the clarity, those come to me usually, and I work with moms. So it's whole thing mother, because I think this is very important. So many people are working with moms, but I think it's really not just marketing thing. Okay, I niche down and my target group is moms, but I really teach these things through the motherhood lens, because it's such an important part of our life, obviously, after giving birth. You cannot just throw it away and have like, okay, let's have a career. You have to align it somehow with your personality and your motherhood and your life, because kids are there. It's not a flu that goes away in 2 weeks, right? Because that way I see that moms not only understand their next step, but they also start to enjoy motherhood and see motherhood as a different thing. And this combination helps them really to level up in their quality of life.
Love it. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Klara, for coming here and sharing your story with us and giving us all these nuggets of wisdom and things to think about. I really, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. And we will see you all next week. Bye-bye. If you're loving what you're learning on this podcast, I want to invite you to come join me for the Executive Mom Reset. We offer both one-on-one and group coaching formats. I created the Executive Mom Reset to help high-achieving moms feel less anxious, more confident, and more in control of their lives. Instead of feeling like you're being pulled in 100 different directions, you'll learn how to pause, reset, and approach challenges with clarity and confidence. You'll stop running on autopilot, stop second-guessing yourself all the time, and stop letting stress, guilt, and overwhelm dictate your day. You'll walk away with the tools and the confidence that you can use every day to feel stronger, more empowered, and more in alignment with the life you want to be living. Head on over to coachleanna.com to learn more and to get signed up. I really hope to see you there.